So let's go ahead and jump in, guys. First and foremost, want to let you guys know we are considered one of the best trading schools by one of the best investing sites in the world, investopedia.com. One of the things that I want to tell you guys about is obviously there's a lot of things that you should watch out for in the day trading industry. I don't want to say scams because it's a little bit too aggressive, but I should say that there's a lot of kind of fly-by-night operations online. So just keep an eye out for that, guys. Just to give you guys a brief background on myself, if you guys don't know me, my name is Marcelo Arrambide. I'm the founder of the Day Trading Academy. I have been able to live my dreams through day trading. Everybody obviously wants to do this because they want to make money. For us, the goal to be able to day trade is to have our financial freedom, right? It's about having the lifestyle that you want to live, not necessarily about having $1 million. Like I can tell you guys, even if you're trading, to be able to make $1 million, you have to work a lot, and we don't want to sit behind a computer screen for 6, 7, 10 hours a day. What we want to do is trade for about an hour or two a day, which is the optimal time for Emini futures, and then get out and do things like this, which is why I kind of shared this picture when I walked with cheetahs in Zambia. It took me 2 years to become successful. You guys are very lucky. You guys have a lot of additional technology and all kinds of resources to be able to use. We didn't have a lot of that back then. And because of my unique story and what I've been able to do traveling around the world, you can see I've been featured in quite a few places, even on House Hunters TV, CNN, BBC, CNBC, all kinds of places. Now, jumping right in, I just want to give you guys a little bit of motivation and show you some of the places that I've been able to travel to. This is the Amalfi Coast in Italy. Absolutely spectacular. I highly, highly recommend it. This is Santorini in the Mediterranean Sea in Greece. Another absolutely amazing place that you guys should visit. This is Jericoacoara in Brazil. They do have Wi-Fi there, believe it or not. It's a freshwater lagoon that's absolutely spectacular. And obviously the Taj Mahal, day trading for me, that's why I have the shirt on. It's one of the best jobs in the world. And this is the Marina Bay Sands Resort in Singapore. It's actually an infinity pool that sits on top of 3 different buildings. And there they have definitely Wi-Fi. Everything in Singapore works the way it should. And one of the things that we do with the Academy is we fund traders. So this is a picture of one of our military training sessions. We're actually opening up physical day trading centers around the world to be able to find traders to fund for our investment fund that we trade with. So something that's very, very special for us, even though we do the majority of our training online. So jumping right into it, guys, first and foremost, I want to talk to you guys about the simple fact that the E-mini futures market is one of the highest traded markets in the world. Now, this is not to say that it is the biggest, right? Because the biggest is actually Forex. Showing you guys this graph here, you can see that the E-mini futures, after they came out in 97, has started to eclipse a lot of the normal trading vehicles that people use. So the biggest overall market that people trade, the absolute biggest, is going to be Forex. But the E-mini futures together and even classified as a single market is one of the single highest market traded by retail traders, which is, for example, you and I that sit in our boxers at home. I know I have this collared shirt on, but you guys want me to stand up. So that's one thing I want to let you guys know. It's a great market to trade, a lot of professionals, good fluid movement in any kind of market, great volatility, and especially markets like gold, silver, and oil, which you guys have seen absolutely spectacular movement both up and down in the markets. The next thing is going to be that the markets are highly leveraged. And this, I would say, is one of the biggest advantages that we have in the E-mini futures industry. So every dollar that the market goes up with stocks and Forex, which most of you probably trade, we only make $1 in profit, unless we use our margin, which means that we have to borrow money and pay interest. Not that we're paying a lot of interest right now, because obviously we have the extremely low interest rates, but it still isn't cheap, right? So if we lose our position, whatever happens, if a trade goes negative a certain amount, the broker can do what's called a margin call, and if they don't get the money for that margin call, it means that they'll close your positions with a bigger loss possibly that you've already had. With futures, we can make a lot less money with more. What does that mean? That every dollar in movement that we get in the market, we can make anywhere between $50 to $5,000 per position. So in stocks, for example, if we buy one stock, right, one share of stock, let's say in BP or Microsoft or LinkedIn, whatever the case may be, if it goes up $1, we make $1. Right? But in the E-mini futures markets, if it goes up $1, we make $50 to $5,000. And this is not borrowing money. That means that we're not taking on a margin. And the minimum amount of money to be able to trade in the E-mini futures markets, especially day trade, where you enter and you exit your position in the same day, is only $500. So I'll tell you guys a story that when I was actively looking for traders to fund, I was able to, let's say, coerce or steal a handful of traders from a fund, a prop firm in Calgary, Canada. And one of those traders made more money trading $25,000 in futures than he did with $1 million stock account with stocks. So keep that in mind, that you can make a lot more with less, and that's what we call leverage. The silver market is the best one. That's obviously $5,000 for every dollar that it goes up. And then the Emini S&P 500 is the lowest, has the lowest leverage, where we make $50 for every dollar that it moves. So that for me is one of the best things, because we can make a lot more with less and with a lot less risk. Low barriers to entry. I'm sure for those of you guys that trade stocks already know the pattern day trading rule, which I have listed down here. One of the things to keep in mind is that in order to day trade stocks, the rule, I believe, is getting in and out of a trade 4 times within 5 days, or a certain percentage of your actual account. You can day trade after that. There's restrictions because there's regulations called the day trading pattern day trading rule, that says that you need $25,000 to be able to day trade stocks. Well, with futures, there aren't those regulations, and it's really a lot less stringent. So there isn't, for example, short restrictions. If the stock market goes down by a certain amount, they can cut off trading in the stock exchange. With futures, they don't have those kind of restrictions. I was in a short position recently, I would say about 2 years ago, where I was actually long a stock, and they just shut down the stock because the SEC was investigating them. So that isn't going to happen when it comes to futures. So it's a little bit safer in that respect, and it takes a little bit more time to be able to do the research to be able to trade things like stocks, when you're going to be able to make a lot more with less with futures. So start with just $1,000, as I mentioned a moment ago, and you can make a lot more money with less. The next one is going to be the dynamic 24-hour market. I'm sure all of you guys know, when it comes to stocks, it's 9:30 to 4 Eastern time, New York time. When it comes to futures, the markets are open essentially 24 hours, and you can trade anything from, I call them Forex futures, currency futures, or anything from commodities, or anything from, they have futures for weather now, believe it or not, if you guys want to bet on El Nino next year. So essentially, just to give you guys an idea of the time frames that we have in the futures markets, we open on Sunday at about 6 o'clock Eastern time, and then we're open all the way until Monday. You can see there at about 5 p.m. Monday, right? So then it reopens again at 6 o'clock the same day. So essentially, Monday to Friday, the market's only closed about 45 minutes. And I may have those exact times wrong, but essentially it's the same idea, guys. So during Monday to Friday, market is only closed 45 minutes. And the reason why for that, if you guys think about that analytically, is that 6 p.m. in the U.S. is 8 a.m. in places like Shanghai, Japan, and Australia. So obviously, the E-mini futures, we have markets like gold, silver, oil, and other global market exchanges for products like wheat, lean hog, gasoline, all kinds of things. So that's one of the reasons why it's like that. And it's a lot easier to be able to trade when we don't have to wait until 9:30, for example, for the market to open. So that's one of the things to consider. And one of the last two things, the tax treatment for those of you guys that are trading stocks. For short-term gains, when it comes to stocks held less than 1 year, you're going to be taxed at a 35% rate. When, obviously all of us, we want to trade, we want to pay less taxes, right? Want to do everything above board, not avoid anything from the IRS. But obviously, when we're making money trading, we pay 35% tax on stocks, especially those that we're going to day trade. For futures, there's something called the 60-40 rule, which means that 60% of your trades are going to be taxed at short-term capital gains, and this should be short-term instead of long-term there, and it's going to be 15%, right? There you go, 15%. And then the long-term gains, which is 40%, is going to be 35%. So that means that 60% of your positions are going to be taxed at the 15% rate, whereas 40% of your positions are going to be taxed at the normal short-term capital rate at 35%. And that's definitely a big reason to be able to trade, to pay a lot less taxes. So consider that as well. And last but not least is the manipulation. I'm sure that all of you guys definitely know about, the book that kind of blew HFT, high frequency trading, out of the water, kind of very, very popular. They've done studies at one point. High frequency trading in stocks got up to, I would say, anywhere between 60 to 70%. In a recent study by the Abbott Group, over 51.43% of stocks are traded by algorithms. The reason why that went down is because they're essentially cannibalizing upon each other now. In the futures market, it's a lot less manipulated. It's a lot more transparent exchange, especially since there's one exchange that regulates everything, which is the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. One note about Forex, for those of you guys that are trading Forex, there's obviously a lot of manipulation in Forex, not just on the movement side, like high-frequency trading, but on the broker side as well. A lot of brokers actually are not on your side when it comes to putting in those positions, so keep that in mind. Now, those are all the advantages when it comes to being able to trade E-mini futures. I do want to tell you about the disadvantages as well. If I could find my my little PowerPoint here. Give me 1 second to find that page for you guys. All right, here we go, guys. So the disadvantages, obviously, if you can make a lot more money because the market is leveraged, you can lose the same amount of money. So it's important to be able to understand that you need a very good trading strategy to be able to limit your risk. That means making sure you always have stops on the table, making sure that your risk versus reward is 2 to 1, meaning that if you're going to risk $50 or risk $500 on a trade, make sure you're going to make a lot more on the gains, right? So if you're risking, let's say, $50, make sure you make $100, that's 2 to 1, or you make $200, that's 3 to 1, right? Another thing is make sure you win more than you lose. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in the latter part of the series where we talk about the strategies. But I do want you to realize that obviously we can make a lot more money with futures, but that also means that if the trades go against you, that you can lose a lot more money as well. And just because the E-mini futures markets is easier to get into, it is easier to trade with, it doesn't mean that it makes it easy, right? Most of you guys that want to learn how to day trade think that you're going to start and next week you're going to start making $1 million, and unfortunately that's not the way that day trading works. So I really want to make that transparent for all of you guys that are watching this video. It's important to be able to understand that day trading isn't something that's easy, because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? It does take time to be able to learn this. It takes a lot of discipline and patience. So not to say that it can't be done. I don't want to put you guys on the side of caution, but obviously if you take it serious, make sure you're using a good strategy, you can do very, very well. The key to be able to day trade in general, not just E-mini futures, is consistency, right? Make sure that you're making the right decision all the time, because then you're going to be able to make money no matter what. If you make the right decision, the money will come. So next part in the series, guys, is going to be part 2. What are E-mini futures contracts? We're going to talk a little bit about the history, how they came about, and that's you can see the other series there in the. Oh, I forgot to change the page. So that's going to be part 2. Part 3, we'll talk a little bit about the characteristics and specs, and after that, trading platforms, brokers, and strategies, and a little bit more in depth about the strategies and indicators. So let us know if you guys have any questions. Leave us a comment here on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon. Ciao.